I'm Heather Marie Montilla, and you are watching PBS Books. In partnership with Georgia Public Broadcast, it is my pleasure to bring you pandemic stories of kids all over the world. Welcome. Today, some of the biggest children's book authors will read real pandemic stories from real kids. When author Kelly Yang invited children to write their pandemic stories for her blog, she was floored from kids all over the world who showed hope and courage in their stories. I'm proud to announce she's published over 500 of these powerful stories. Now, Kelly Yang and her author friends, Stuart Gibbs, Meg Medina, Jacqueline Woodson, Jasmine Warga, Jeff Kinney, Jewel Parker Rhodes, and Margarita Engel will read a wonderful selection of pandemic stories from children worldwide. Let us celebrate their brave voices together. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, it's such an honor to be here. I'm so excited to read these kids' stories.
This idea for you to do this came from something, and we've spoken before, but not everyone else knows. This idea actually came and was inspired by one of your recent books. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
That's right. So I recently published this book called New From Here. It is about my experience immigrating to the US with my kids during the pandemic. And as soon as I started reading it to kids on YouTube, they started emailing me with stories about their own pandemic experiences. And that's when I realized that we all have a pandemic story. So I decided to invite all kids from anywhere in the world to write their own and submit it to me. And I'm so delighted to share some of them with you tonight. They were, incredibly moving, so real, so poignant. And
the children across the world showed so much resilience during this pandemic. But I want to just thank you for inviting them to be able to tell their story and helping to amplify their voice tonight, because I think every child needs to be heard. And so many children across the world, suffered so much in so many ways, whether it was isolation or not getting to do something, or suffering in as we'll hear, more significant ways. But I am so excited for everyone to be able to hear these amazing stories. So without further ado, I'm going to throw it over to you to get the conversation started. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, I would love to start with a touching story by Kawathi, who is age 11 from Charlotte, North Carolina. And the story is called Life on Pause. Springtime in 2020 was supposed to be like pushing the play button. Goodbye, icky, sicky, cold winter days. Bring on the sunshine. I thought I would go back to visiting my friends and celebrating holidays with my family. I also hoped I could go back to school for a couple of days a week after spring break. My curly hair was finally growing back, and my chemotherapy treatments were starting to be more spaced out too. But then the coronavirus spread and paused everything for everyone. My life had been on pause since the year before, when I was diagnosed with cancer. I just turned 9. My doctor would tell me that the things I loved were just on pause for a little while. The pandemic was like a rewind. More of staying home alone with my mom and dad, more of waiting patiently for things to feel right. Now I'm back at school after 2 years away, even though a lot of things are still on pause for me. And some things will never be the same. I know I can get through it. As the summer gets nearer, I hope it's finally time to push play. Kawathi, this story just warms my heart to its core. I so admire your bravery and hope, especially since my mother is also battling cancer. It was a real honor to read your story, and I hope that you get to press play this summer. And as you press play, I want you to keep in mind that it's the little things that get us through such hard times. Now it's time to hear it from Caitlin, age 10, from Bedminster, New Jersey. The time of COVID was the time that my Nai got sick with a stroke. I call my mama's mom Nai because I share my last name with Mama. Being fully Chinese made me realize that family is most important. Unfortunately, the pandemic was a tornado. You get sucked inside and don't come out. During the summer, me and Mama went outside for walks and brought bread to feed the geese. We were walking by our spot when I spotted a goose alone. I noticed it was limping. We investigated more and found that the goose had an injured leg. I fed it bread and I came back the next day to check on it. The goose recognized me. The goose came towards me even though Mama was the one who held the bread. After 2 months of visiting the goose, it healed. When fall came, the geese left, and I knew that it was better to have a friend in health than not. I learned that human or animal, friend or foe, there are always people who will be kind and will guide you. Sometimes we just have to appreciate the little things. Very true, Caitlin. I may just have to take my kids to feed some of these amazing geese after this. You've inspired me. From celebrating the little things in life to bigger events such as birthdays, the pandemic has changed everything. And I want to read a very moving entry, My 3 Birthdays in the Pandemic by Sanvi, age 7, from Delhi, India. The deadly virus COVID-19 started in one country, then slowly reached the whole world. Many countries decided to put everything on lockdown. In 2020, my first lockdown birthday was really fun. My family celebrated it so well. My parents decorated the home with Diwali lights and old decorations. My mother baked a yummy cake and cooked all my favorite foods. In 2021, I had another birthday during a lockdown. However, this time it wasn't fun. My family was not doing well because of the virus. My grandfather was seriously ill, and my family was struggling to find a hospital for admission. On my birthday morning, my mother wished me happy birthday and said, "We'll celebrate once your grandfather is better." Then my parents ordered my favorite pizza from Domino's. Then the situation got worse. The day after my birthday, my grandfather passed away. Our lives felt upside down. I loved him a lot and still do. Now in 2021, I am about to have my 3rd birthday during the pandemic. I pray all of us, everyone in the world, stay safe and blessed. First and foremost, I am so sorry for your loss, Sanvi. Thank you for sharing your story, and may your grandfather's spirit shine as bright as the Diwali lights. I wish you a wonderful birthday and a fantastic year ahead. And now I am thrilled to introduce Jewel Parker Rhodes, New York Times bestselling and award-winning author, educator, and friend.
Thank you, Kelly. Looks like we are off to a great start. These times haven't been easy, and we all must maintain a sense of hope, as shown in Hope Within Each Other's Life by Anisha, age 13, Ancaster, Canada. The pandemic infiltrated our lives in a matter of seconds. One day, we were learning math. The next day, we were in a worldwide lockdown. However, I feel like expressing our sentiment helps us perceive that this is a collective experience, not one that is only exclusively within our minds. Sharing our positive encounters throughout the pandemic could allow us to see the world in a hopeful and optimistic light for others and ourselves. Although it's difficult to acknowledge hopefulness, I consider the unseen benefit. Humanity is remarkably busy, hence why we never notice the opportunity we have to enjoy family. During the pandemic, I did a lot with my family. We cooked together, had movie nights, talked and laughed. We had a lighthearted experience. I think establishing hope starts with learning new hobbies, focusing on mental health, and accepting the pandemic lifestyle. We don't know when this is going to end, but it is in our control to change the narrative into a more encouraging matter. If we only expect happiness in life, we will all be left disappointed. If we move forward willingly, we can generate more happiness. We cannot always be free from the coldness of the world, but if we appreciate everything as much as we can turn a distressing event into a learning opportunity. Wow, beautifully and eloquently said, Anisha. I truly admire your sheer hopefulness. Such positive words ground us as individuals and bring us together as a community. It also takes one little person to make a whole lot of change. I introduce you to Grace's words. Grace, age 13, from Beijing, China, can certainly attest to this in her story, Fun in the Neighborhood. School had shut down, and I was left with a rather estranged community in my neighborhood. I realized that the closest way I could get to reviving back those pre-COVID days was to bring back our neighborhood's vivacity. So I then started a book club on Little Women by Louisa May Alcott and gathered 4 girls from nearby buildings around my kitchen table. Since they were all too shy to truly open up, I took this opportunity to incorporate more action into our learning throughout our whole neighborhood. We doodled together and had spike ball games after each meeting. Our activities eventually extended towards the whole neighborhood, finally weaving the community together. After deepening our neighborhood's connections, I no longer ignored my neighborhood because of my busy school life. And I started to make time for walks around the woods, chats with those in our community, and playtime with childhood friends. After school resumed, I was still actively involved in my community, whether chatting with elders or trimming the bushes with our local gardener. I came to understand that it doesn't always take a large community to make a difference. It's one with a strong relationship that makes the potential endless. Grace, while COVID has isolated many a person across the globe, you found a way to bring your community together. A big round of applause for you and your ability to make a difference. And now, I am pleased to pass the torch along to New York Times best-selling author of The Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Jeff Kinney.
Thank you, Jewel. These awesome stories need to be heard. From major milestones to everyday activities, our world was flipped upside down. However, some of us just have to relax, be cool, chill out. Here's a story by Autumn, age 12, from Decatur, Georgia. Today was Thursday, April 12th, 2020, and I had theater. This year's musical for my age group was Madagascar, and for the first time ever, I was a lead. I was Gloria the Hippo, which meant I was supposed to be maternal. Weird, but it was a lead nonetheless. One of the songs we practiced was called Relax, Be Cool, Chill Out. That was probably one of the best songs in the musical. When rehearsal was over, our directors told us that next week we might not meet because of the coronavirus. I didn't think it was true. Suddenly, I had the next 2 weeks off from school. After some time, my mom said I would have theater again, but virtually. Those rehearsals were the first time I had ever used Zoom, but it was fun. Now, whenever I think about relax, be cool, chill out, I recognize the symbolism. Thank you, Autumn. They do say life imitates art. But most importantly, art can bring about change and awareness in life, as seen in Hope for Freedom by Svetlana, age 12, from Kyiv, Ukraine. My country was captured during the pandemic. I helped elderly members of my community get to safety in Kyiv. I watched a small, unarmed military defending the freedom and autonomy of my country. I helped others leave their hometown of Irpin, which was a huge Russian success. Hope was at the forefront of the struggle for my freedom. Svetlana, it was so brave of you to share your story with the world. We all send our love and support for you and the Ukrainian people. One of the most beautiful aspects of life is showing our care and support for each other. In Good Hair by Sarah, age 12, from Edmonton, Canada, we see just that. The pandemic had begun, and I wanted to shave my hair for cancer. I had wanted to do this all summer long. It was February 1st, 2020, and I had been growing my hair for a while. I asked my mom if I could do it. She said yes if I raised money. So I did. My mom helped me out by posting photos of my hair to fundraise on Facebook. Then it was the day, February 19th, 2020. As my family and I drove to the mall, I screamed my head off the whole way with excitement. When we arrived, I saw all my extended family. I raised $845. Slowly, I walked up, sat in the chair, and everything came to life. At first, I didn't really believe that it was happening. They tied my hair in pigtails and cut them one by one. Then they shaved my head. It was the best day of my life. I want to do it again. Rock and roll, kid. Never lose that activist spirit. Tune in now to my talented New York Times bestselling friend, Jasmine Warga.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm so excited to participate in this event. These kids are amazing. Their strength, resilience, and particularly their creativity is something we can all learn from. I'd like to share now from Hope Through the Screen by Zoya, age 11, from Chandler, Arizona. March 2020 is a time I will never forget. Online school was something that I never predicted would happen, something that would last the following year, and that the coronavirus itself was going to last to this day. Online school was definitely not the same as in person. We had less assignments and activities, and all of my friends were back in person. But this gave me an advantage, lots of free time. I used to despise reading. I simply just couldn't get into the books I was reading. Finally, I found a book that I could not put down. A Place at the Table, which to my amazement featured a South Asian protagonist. I was enthralled that it had a kid like me in it. In fact, I started a virtual book club with a few of my school friends as a way to stay in touch during the pandemic. A Place at the Table being our first book. And we still meet monthly via Zoom. Even though I am back in person with them, during this chaotic time, I learned that there is hope, whether it be through the screen or through the pages. Thank you so much for sharing that, Zoya, and congratulations on your book club. And I also love the book, A Place at the Table. Books can truly be a safe haven for kids. They certainly were in Quiet in the Midst of Chaos by Audrey, age 13, from Beijing, China. My family moved to China in 2019. We were some of the first people to go through COVID-19. When the pandemic hit, we fled to America. But what a mistake that was. Flash forward to March, my dad was forced to go back to China for work, leaving my mom, my sister, and I stuck in America. We had a hard time trying to get back home to China. So for 7 months, I was stuck sharing a room with my extroverted family members. I love my family, but as an introvert, I need some quiet. Thankfully, I found it. Even though my younger sister played her recorder all the time, and my mom decided to rewatch all her favorite movies at high volume, I was able to tune out the noise. I traveled to my favorite fictional worlds through reading, or calmed my chaotic thoughts by writing fiction. I also spent hours playing video games or crafting trinkets. I know most people thought quarantine was boring, but honestly, I was able to find new hobbies I still enjoy to this day. How impressive, Audrey. I love that you turned to writing and reading, and I hope that we'll all get to read more of your stories someday. You truly found peace in reading and writing. And now I am pleased to introduce the amazing Newbery Award-winning friend, Meg Medina.
Thank you, Jasmine. Now, COVID has been a time for reflection in lots of different ways, and many of us have had the opportunity to find new hobbies, like discovering the world of books. So now I am delighted to read Books Give Me Hope by Ethan, age 11, from Sacramento, California. It was a brisk morning on March 13th, 2020. That was the day I heard the news that school was taking place virtually. I had so many questions without any answers. How long was this going to last? Were we going to be okay? Millions of people were infected by COVID-19. Months later, everybody began to lose hope, including me. Tantrums and tears every day. The lockdown took a toll on me, but hope was on the way. In 2021, I joined my first virtual book club. Books were one of the only things that kept me sane during that time of uncertainty. Stories took me to faraway lands, they gave me hope, and the one thing better than reading novels was discussing them with other book enthusiasts. Soon, I connected with authors about my reviews of their great reads, and every time I read a book, I wrote a review. I did this every day. Writing reviews about stories that I read kept a smile on my face throughout the pandemic. And that smile has never faded. Books give me hope. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ethan. The art of storytelling is truly healing, and I'm so excited to hear how all kinds of arts and the literary arts have brightened your day. And speaking of literary arts, I'm excited now to read Art in the Pandemic by Mary, age 11, from Milwaukee. When COVID hit, I was in the 4th grade and life was tough. I was bored and there wasn't much to entertain my hyperactive ADHD brain. That's when I started to draw. At first, I was pretty bad. My drawings looked creepy and incomplete. When I started practicing more, my drawings got better. They weren't great, but better. And when I started to get more serious about drawing, I discovered my dream to make art on the internet as a career. I also got into fan art. I often look at Pinterest for inspiration and tips. I don't think I would have found my passion for drawing if it wasn't for the pandemic. Therefore, in a way, I'm grateful for the pandemic and hopeful for the future. Mary, it sounds like your future is dancing with colors and creativity. I hope you keep drawing and finding out that we become artists by being artists. And now, I'm delighted to introduce the National Book Award winning, the Newbery Honor winning, the National Ambassador for Young People's Literature, Jacqueline Woodson.
Thank you, Meg. COVID was a whirlwind for these kids. While some took on new activities, others took on new responsibilities. We all know about a pandemic puppy somewhere. I have one right behind me. He's asleep now. Actually, I have 2 dogs behind me. I forgot the dog that's not a pandemic puppy. That's also asleep behind me. Let's check out Tornado Dog by Judy, age 11, from Surrey, Canada. COVID started when I was in 3rd grade. 1 month later, it reached Canada. I moved twice, and thankfully, the second house allowed dogs. When 4th grade ended, my family decided to get a dog. I know having a dog sounds super fun and everything, but when you realize what you have to do in order to take care of it, you might want to think twice. Taking care of him was like taking care of a tornado. I think he kind of represents COVID, this dog in Judy's story. Let me keep reading. If you only look at his mistakes, he's a literal monster. But once you get to know him, he's actually not too bad. For me, COVID is something you have to go through for your real life to begin. Life is scary sometimes, and everyone needs to learn this eventually. Now my dog is way more mature and his Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stage is over. I really hope COVID will be over soon as well. Thank you for sharing that, Judy. Dogs can bring a lot of love and a lot of chaos into our lives, but most importantly, they can bring our families together. However, some families were separated during this time, like Miles from Hometown by Damadora, age 10, from Pleasanton, California. And it may be pronounced Damodara, but it's spelled Damodara, and it's a beautiful name, and I'm hoping I pronounced it right. I am a first-generation immigrant from India. Even though I have some relatives in the USA, most of my relatives still live in India. When I left India for the USA, I missed my relatives a lot. With COVID everywhere, I couldn't go back to India for some time. I could only chat with my relatives on the phone and see them through video call. Sometimes I feel like I don't care about COVID and just want to go and visit my relatives already. Usually we went to our hometown during summer break, but since COVID struck the world and canceled many flights, we couldn't go. But now COVID has gone down a little, and my parents are thinking about going back to India during the coming summer break. When my parents told me this big news, I was really happy. I immediately told my sister, and she got excited too. However, there aren't many tickets available, and COVID is still rampant in India. I really hope that COVID will go away soon. Damodara, so do I. And I really hope you get to see your family in real life soon. In the meantime, thank you for your story. It was such a pleasure to share it. And now I'm happy to present author Margarita Ingo.
Thank you, Jacqueline. It's an honor to be here today. I love to hear the way in which these kids have made the best out of these unusual circumstances. But not all kids got lost in books. Here is Social Media Craze by Miriam, age 13, from Ancaster, Canada. Like many people during the pandemic, I became reliant on social media, specifically the more unpleasant part, the part that shaped people into a completely different person. Social media requires people to add content, and from there, more and more events are being posted along with replies. People can't stop scrolling. This consumes everyone's life, and they barely focus on their own. I was a victim. Since I was so addicted, I started developing bad habits, changing my standards and making an extra effort to impress others. Over time, I've realized how ridiculous this was, thanks to the better side of social media. It just scares me that not all people will come to this realization. I started focusing on my own life. However, following trends and finding inspiration isn't a bad thing. I did it quite a bit. I simply added some rules. I actually like it and never do it for others. I also gained more hobbies and spent more time with my family. Thank you for sharing, Miriam. There's a whole other world on our screens, and we can easily lose ourselves within it. It's taken all kinds of super strength to get through these COVID obstacles. But heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they come in the form of those we love most. Here is Supermom by Parker, age 10, from Frankfort, Indiana. My first day of virtual school was hard. I had no one to help me when I was stuck. But then Supermom came to the rescue. She made me feel like I actually was in school. She even called herself a teacher, and she was also the lunch lady. After she finished cooking, she said that I had to do 1 page of math, then I could go play for 15 minutes. We continued this rotation, and by the end of the week, all of my work was done. Then Supermom bravely went out to a bookstore to buy me the book that I wanted. That book was Three Keys. Then, after I read the book, I started my summer routine, sleeping. Wow, your mom went to infinity and beyond, Parker. Thank you for sharing this awesome story. I loved reading Three Keys too. And now I'm pleased to pass the torch on to my friend, New York Times bestseller, Stuart Gibbs.
Thank you, Margarita. It is great to be here and share all of these amazing stories. Over the past few years, kids have had to learn to adapt from online learning to that scary first day back to in-person school, as told in First Day Jitters by Gervine, age 13, from Kitchener, Canada. When I got to school, I was puzzled as all the teachers held up signs. I walked over to all the kids. I felt so tiny compared to everyone else, even though I was the tallest one there. I skimmed the field, hoping I would see at least one of my friends there. I didn't want to be alone on the first day of school. I walked closer to get a better look, but didn't see anyone I knew. I could feel the girls staring at me. I could feel the girls staring at me. It felt as if they were burning through my skin with their glares. I hated standing there and needed to move. While I was looking around, I almost jumped out of my skin when the shrill morning bell blasted in my ears. I quickly hurried over to my class. I saw so many people I couldn't recognize because of the masks covering their faces or their new haircuts. There were also people I had never even seen before. Then I looked behind me and saw my best friend. I sighed with relief and knew this would be an amazing year. Well, thanks for sharing your story, Gervine. Sounds like you have a great year ahead of you. Now, as we've read, many kids took on new hobbies from a love of reading or drawing, and in this case, hairstyling. I'm so excited to share Dad's Pandemic Haircut by Maria, age 13, from Hopewell Junction, New York. My dad was looking like Bigfoot since there were no hair salons open due to the pandemic. In order to fix this, someone had to cut his hair at home. So I did it. We had clippers and set up a chair outside. Then we watched a tutorial on how to cut hair correctly. At first, things were going really smoothly until I noticed something. I got nervous that I had cut his hair wrong because in front of me was a bald spot. I gasped and said, "Oh no!" My mother came out to see what was wrong because my dad was worried about what I had done. I said, "I think I accidentally gave him a bald spot." Then my mother laughed. "You didn't do that. He already had that bald spot. He's been losing his hair." Dad was relieved, and the hairstyle was decent. He claimed he had paid for worse haircuts, but I personally hope that the pandemic ends soon so I can stop cutting his hair, because I don't work for free. Maria, you have found your niche. Tell your dad practice makes perfect, and that he might not be the only father who ended up with a bald spot during the pandemic. Thank you so much for sharing. Back to you, Kelly and Heather.
Wow. Oh my God. Heather, that was incredible. I can't believe how amazing those stories are, how
It
real,
was incredible.
how
It
powerful,
was tremendous.
how emotional.
I will say
What do you
that
think,
I
Heather?
actually felt
Wasn't
my
that
eyes
amazing?
welling up during some of those stories. I know they showed such resilience and bravery and hope. And it amazed me how young people are an example for all of us. That's what I have to say. I think we have so much to learn from all of you, all of the kids out there who wrote these stories. We have so much to learn about your bravery and how you were able to not only to do those things, but to write those things. So it was amazing. And
yeah, and And I feel like the fact that they're able to write it and talk about it and process, like that's how we process through stories. You know, that's how we process as a community. And I loved that they had the courage to write these stories down and submit them to me. And if you're interested in reading the rest of the stories, they're all on my website
and the stories, each one of them is amazing. And so I encourage all of you to go to Kelly's website to read more and to be inspired. I also want to put out a challenge because I know that the call for the entries is over, but the call to all of you out there is not over. Write your story and share your story with someone. And I also encourage to encourage young people to write their story and to let it be heard in a space. I think one of the amazing things is letting others read your story and hearing it through the voice and the eyes of someone else. I mean, Kelly, this has been incredible. Thank you, Kelly, so much. I mean,
Absolutely. I could not agree more. And thank you so much to PBS for supporting this and making sure that we are able to have this amazing event. And I hope it's a time capsule for this unique moment and people will be able to look back
for sure.
Years to come and still watch
Georgia
this
Public
video and read
Broadcast,
all the
PBS
stories.
Books, and especially just to repeat, we couldn't have done it without Stuart Gibbs, Meg Medina, Jacqueline Whitson, Jasmine Warga, Jeff Kinney, Jewel Parker Rhodes, and Margarita Engel. And obviously, most of all, Kelly. Couldn't do it without you. So this has been an amazing evening. And we hope that all of you will continue reading, continue writing. You're watching PBS Books. And until next time, happy reading.